Hi everyone, today I am going to be colouring from Worlds Within Worlds by Kerby Rosanes. This is the page. I'll just zoom out for you so you can see. It's like these little mini balls or glass balls in different shapes, like little terrariums with houses and plants and things in. I'm actually going to start with a small easy one and see how I get on. Let me see, is that in shot? Yes. So I'm going to do this one here. Now I'm going to do this one. Now I haven't got a name to make all of them identical or anything like that, so I'm just going to go for it and see how it turns out really. I'm using my Polychromos pencils. It doesn't mean that you have to use yours as well. If you don't have them, just use whatever you have. But I'm just, it just happened to be out on my desk because I'm doing another project with them, so I just thought I would use them. That's the only reason for using them. The only problem I have is they are very small. This is one of my biggest browns, believe it or not, and so I'm not really sure of the numbers of all of them because I don't have them on them. This one though is number 280, which is the burnt umber, and I'm going to use this at the bottom because I reckon that this is a bit of soil and then we've got this succulent plant growing on it. So I'm just going to go over this quite roughly because, I mean, we're quite lucky because Kerby tends to give us some structure and shading, so we don't have to worry too much about exactly what colours, you know, where to put our shade, which can, I think, although the detail in some of the books is quite daunting, I think actually the help that we get with shading is very useful for beginners. So if, I'm just trying to work out if that's, I'm going to put that as a rock. If you are thinking about whether it will suit you, I was actually really surprised. I thought they looked so complex to be really hard, but actually no. You may have seen my elephant tutorial, maybe my snails from Imagimorphia, and I was so surprised at how actually straightforward it was to do them. So I've done that bit of base brown, and I want to do, we've got some darker areas and we've got some rocks, so I want to do those. I'm going to zoom in a little bit now so you can see a little bit more clearly as to what I'm doing. So it's not completely central. My pencil tins are in the way. If I push any more, they'll be on the floor. We don't want polychromos all over the floor. Now this is my dark sepia. This is quite a grey colour. I think it would be quite good for doing some shading. So I'm having a look. And as I say, Kerby gives us clues. So here we've got an area where he's drawn some lines. So I'm going to go in there with the darker colour. And here, look, got a few lines. I'm just going to go over those, and here as well. Now where this stone is, I'm just going to go around the bottom of it as if there's some shadow, because there would be, and we've got dark lines here, so I'm going to put some shadow under there. Just nip over that bit. We've got a plant here, I reckon, that's how I'm going to colour it. So I'm going to do a bit of shadow under there with this colour. You can see how it's just beginning to take shape a little bit. It's quite dark in this bit with lots of lines, so I'm going to emphasise that dark with more shading under the stone here and this one and around, and then under this one, and then we have a little bit of colour here and here and a bit under there and under there, up here. It can be quite rough. It is soil after all. Now the ones here that are rocks, I want to give them a little bit more shape. Just having a look at my browns. I think I'm going to grab this one. It's slightly different shade to the soil, which is what I'm after. I need to sharpen it. I just found my sharpener. It's decided to walk across my desk. This is the Walnut Brown. You won't be able to tell very easily because it's so teeny. But it's just a different shade of brown. It's still quite a dark one. What I'm going to do is think about where it will be darker, which will be at the bottom, and maybe at the edges, and just emphasize that a little bit, and hopefully it will give a little bit of shape and interest to the stone. We'll do the same around here. There, we're just going to leave it like that, really simple. Don't need too much going on. I'm just putting those pencils to the side. Now I'm going to grab some greens I think I'm going to do this Succulent Green. I'm just going to move my tray of yellows and reds and pinks and purples away, because I don't think I'm going to be using those for this particular picture. I think we're just going to be using shades of green. Now, in my experience, succulents are often a bluey green. So I'm going to grab a bluey green. This here, you're in for a treat if you like little pencils. Hooker's green, he's knee small. He also needs a sharpen, so it's going to get even smaller. I find them quite hard to sharpen when they're this small. They do get to a size where I can't sharpen them anymore. There, but I can still get a nice point on that one. Now I'm going to use that for these little shrubbery bits underneath here. I don't know what they are, but we're just going to go over them with this. I'm just going to do a light application of this colour to start with. Now these little terrariums, or whatever they might be, I'm assuming they're glass. So when we get towards the end of the project here, we will have to think about how to make them glass. Now of course they could all be see-through, or they could be coloured glass. Now I'm going to put some different darkness of colour. Here where it's near the stones, I want it to be a little bit darker as if there's some shadow, and here in between these two bits and this one at the bottom. And here again where it touches this bit, that's actually plant as well there. Where it touches that bit there, no shadow here because this bit is far out. This is on the outside of our glass, but maybe a little bit in between these tendrils here, you see. I'm going to do this back one next, so the shadow here where it overlaps the other plant, like that, and then again maybe a little bit between the tendrils, just a touch to give it a little bit more shape. Now this one is further forward, it's not going to be as dark, but I still want to add a little bit of shadow under these loops here, these C-shaped pieces, because I think they're sticking out towards us. I'm just going to go over that bit a little because it's not dark enough, but I really want to emphasize that bit in a little bit there. So going to get in there. There we go. Just going to get on the end of there. Just want to get rid of those white bits. Some of it I haven't quite given enough thought to. And this one again, just a little bit of dark at the bottom, and then behind here. I think this is two plants, so this is one here, and then this is one in front. We'll just do a touch there. Now coming up through, I think we'll leave that. I'm going to change colour for this one. So I'm actually going to use quite a light green. I quite like this one. This is called Earth Green. I'm sure that's a new name. I'm sure it didn't used to be called that. Maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it. I don't know. But I'm not going to do it all with this one shade. What I'm going to do is do, like I did with the other, do a layer of this. And I'm going to do a fairly heavy layer of this because I want it to show up. And I think it's quite a nice grey-green colour. I think it just works for a succulent. And then we'll grab a different colour and do some shading to get some darker and lighter areas. We won't make any areas lighter, but we'll make areas darker, and hopefully it will have a nice impact. Now what I'm thinking about as I am jollily colouring this is how I am going to make this look glassy. I have some ideas, thankfully, and what I'm going to do with these metal or whatever they are pieces, to me they look like metal. So I need to think of the colour. I could just do it black, you know, but I think that's a little bit dull. So I think there's plant in there as well. So I need to think about, you know, I could do it silver, I could do it gold, I could do it metallic red, pink, purple, blue. You know, there are lots of choices. I'm not going to go for green. It went into my head, but no, we've got plenty of green going on and brown. We want something different. Do we make it, if we make it too bright and bold, it will probably take from the contents. Do we want to do that? Do we not? You know, there's a lot of little decisions to make, and as much as we should be mindful about each little bit that we're colouring and enjoying it, for me part of the enjoyment is thinking about what's coming next as well and planning ahead. Right, so I'm happy with that for now. I'll put that pencil aside. I might grab it back later. We'll see how the next layer goes. I'm going to use the Juniper Green. I find that works really well with this colour. I've just realised we're not in shot. I'm sorry about that. You missed the top. Hopefully you can pick up where we... now I've just noticed there's a little bit there, which I haven't coloured in there. That may have been the plant below really, but anyway, it's this colour now. So what I'm thinking about is where is the shadow going to be? So under here, where they cross each other, but also at the bottom of each piece of plant, the light will be on the top, so it'll be a bit darker underneath, like that. And I'm looking at Kerby's shading as well to help me. So he's put a lot in here, and you can see there would be, where these two come together, there would be shadow in there, so that helps us a lot to know where to put that darker colour. And what you can find is, because you've got an indication of light and shade within the drawing, if you don't want to emphasize that anymore, you can leave it quite flat like this side. Although you can see this side does look more three-dimensional than this side, there is still some dimensions to this. You don't have to go in with your second green or darker colour and go into these bits and colour them. You can just leave it, you know. But what I'm doing on this side is exactly the same as the other side. So I'm looking at the bottoms of part of leaves where they would be in the shade, and looking at where Kerby's drawn lines to emphasize that, and where they cross, like here, you put a line of shadow around it, just brings this one forward in the eye. Obviously we're just creating an illusion for the eye to try and imagine where the positions of these are, but our eyes are very good at filling in that detail, that three-dimensional effect, and using the clues, so you can get quite a good illusion. And as you can see, it's really take a lot of work, and already that looks more three-dimensional. What I'm going to do now is to go in with an even darker colour, just to put in a few extra dark shadows in certain areas. I'm going to use this chrome oxide green. You could always use a black if you don't have a darker green, but black is quite severe. And I'm just going to think about where I really want a dark shadow, where it's quite far behind. I'm not going to go over every bit of where I did before, but just the areas where I think it would be extra dark, you know, where there are things in the foreground and the background, where there's going to be a deep shadow. And you can just guess, use your common sense as well. It's just think about what you see in nature, look at it carefully, what's in front, what's behind, that sort of thing, and just go for it really. Now I've done that. Now I'm looking at some of these and I'm thinking they look a little bit grey and dull, and I quite like the things that are in the foreground to look like they're catching the light. So what I'm going to do is go into my tray that I put aside and grab this yellow. Now this is a Cadmium lemon yellow. It's quite small as well, and I think it goes quite well with the greens. It looks slightly greeny, and what I'm going to do is the bits that I think will be really forward, oh, I just snapped it then, like this bit and this bit, I'm just going to go over with the tiniest bit of yellow, and I hope that that will just make them, pull them even more forward than they were, and also make the picture look a little bit brighter and cheerier. And that's it. I'm not going to do any more with that. That's just a very quick amount. And now I'm going to zoom out a little bit and try and fit it all in the picture just a little more, so we can get that hook part in as well. There we go. And now I'm thinking about this metal. Now yeah, I can know we've got something hanging down at the bottom, look. Now I think, I thought it might have been a bit of this, but if we zoom out even more, it isn't, because none of that goes behind here, so this must be a bit of this. So we've actually got to do that bit now and decide what colour. To me it doesn't look like either of these two plants But I don't know a lot about succulents. Would there be a sort of off growth of one of them that looked a bit like that? Maybe. I think I'm going to use the greens that I used for this big bit. So I've grabbed the earth green, and I'm just going to have a go with that. Now I haven't thought about a background for this page. I may very well not do one at all. I don't always. Sometimes I think a page needs a background, and sometimes if it's a landscape scene like this windmill here, I feel that needs a background behind it, and I might do that. But I won't extend that outside of the little glass bubble, as it were. I'll just leave it in there. So it will just be contained within that bit. I'm quite looking forward to doing some of those windmills with all the underneath. Look, these, I think there might be tulips and things. I can make them really colourful. But I've picked this one with just green. So I've done that green. I'm going to grab my darker green. Remember, we used the Juniper Green, and I'm going to just add a little bit of extra colour. I'm going to put some on the stem, and sometimes on a stem I'll put a bit each side to make it look more rounded, but this is a little bit small, so instead I'm just going to go over the whole of the stem. Just put a little bit at the bottom of each of these leaf shapes, just to make it look like it's a little bit shadowed at the bottom. I'm not going to use any of the yellow on this one because it almost looks like the bottom bits are nearer to us, so it doesn't quite work in the same way. And there we go. Now for the metal part, I still haven't really decided. I think I could just do a gold for you. We've done gold before in videos, but never in one of Kerby's books. I haven't done very much, so we'll grab this one, which was, I'm trying to remember what this was. We used it before. I think it's the burnt ochre. Yeah, no, we'll use the burnt ochre. I've got it here, and then we won't get confused. So I'm going to use this first for my gold in the areas where I think the gold will be dark. So I'm going to put it in this crossover point here first, like that, and fade it. Okay, so I put in quite a thick layer near the middle, not hugely. I'm going to go over that with other things, and here a little bit, and maybe on this corner, and then fade it down, and the same here, a bit in this corner. I know it muddles in with the soil, but it'll be okay. I'm sure it'll disappear hopefully once we get the gold. Now this hook, do gold hook? I'm just looking. The other things are all being held up by string, and this one's a hook. So I think we'll do this gold as well. It's to sort of match in really. So we'll put the darkest bit here with the bichon and pop in a bit in there as well. There we go. So that's our dark brown. Now we need a lighter brown. I usually go for my lightest brown, which is this one. This is number 182, which is the brown ochre. And the art with this is to go right over the top of the brown you've already applied and just extend it out just a little bit. Okay, just a bit. Now where you've got a big space to fill here, I'm going to extend it quite a long way, like that. But when you've only got a little space, just extend it a little bit. Now I'm going to do a little bit from that side, maybe a tad there, quite a bit down here, but we need maybe a bit there, a bit here and here. Oh, we haven't done that bit. Got a little bit on there, just do a tiny bit. There we are. Simple as that. Now we're going to move on to our green gold. It's usually the colour I do next. He's a littley, isn't he? He's a big favourite of mine. I actually don't know if I've got another one. I need to check. Most of my pencils I have a backup one, especially when they're getting this little. But this one I can't remember. I think I had a couple of them because I started off with a 30. Look, there. I started off with a 36 set of polychromo. No. I started off buying some open stock polychromos, so I had a few. Then I had a 36 set, and I bought a few more open stock. And then lastly I had the 120, and I've got a few extras, so I've got quite a few different ones. Now this is a bit of a longer pencil. Now that's quite a change, isn't it? This is the light yellow ochre, and we're just going to keep doing the same thing. It's just extending that colour. Now here we need to leave some white in some places to provide us with a shine, and so we need to make sure that we're not bringing these together too closely, or else we won't get that shine look. And the shine is what makes it look like gold rather than just a flat browny yellow colour. So I'm being quite careful now to leave a gap. Now if the gap's quite small like that, we might not be able to fit in every colour that we're going to do. That's okay. Okay, our next colour is this one. It's 184, which is the dark Naples ochre. Didn't we just use the... Oh, we just used the light yellow ochre. I think it's quite similar. But anyway, we'll do a little bit of this. This is our penultimate colour. It's worth thinking about how many colours you're doing before you start, so you can sort of leave the right amount of gaps. I've done this a lot, so I know what my plan is. Up there a little bit. Okay, last one. We need a yellow from our yellows rather than from those browny yellows. This one needs sharpening. This one is number 106. It's the light chrome yellow. See, it's quite a lot paler, and it, oops. Now with this, it's really important, go over everything. This will help to blend it all together, but also it helps to fill in any little gaps that you've missed, and it makes it really warms it up and shines it all together, and it just somehow helps with that illusion of metallic shine. Just this last bit makes all the difference somehow, I find. So make sure, look, there's a gap. It might be small, it needs to be there. It needs to be some white paper all the way along. So yeah, as I say, make sure you cover, oh, there's that bit too. Make sure you cover every bit. It just makes such a difference. I'm going to leave a white bit at the top of that hook and the top of that hook a little bit, like that. I think we're nearly done. I'm just going to have a look. Okay, so now our plant looks like it's hanging in a frame. There's no glass illusion on it at the moment. So now need to think a little bit about glass. Now what I tend to do for glass is I tend to grab a grey. Now this is part of the reason why it's better not to do a silver. Bar rather than gold. So I've got my grey, I'm just giving it a sharpen. I have picked the Cold Grey 3. It's the sort of what I pick when I want a central grey. It's not too pale that it won't show up, but it's not too dark. And I want to make this look glassy. So I'm going to colour a little bit of grey here on all this white. I'm going to colour a little bit of grey. Now it's directional, my colouring, you see, and that's because it might reflect the light a little bit, and you might see sort of some white stripes in it from the light. I don't know how well that's being picked up on camera. Now this bit also over here, because that's part of that pane in the back, but in the front it's going to be part of this one, so it's a little bit confusing. So I've done a stripe that way to go for that one, and we've got a downward there. This one we're going to do a stripe in the other direction, and hopefully we can go right across our gold bar there, because we're looking through this piece of glass at the one behind, like that. I'm not going to colour right over all the cacti, it just won't show up, like that. And another way to give the illusion is to potentially use a bit of white pen along here or here. Now that's not really going to show up against our grey, so thinking about where might be the best place to put it. Oops, sorry, I just hit my pen on the tripod. I'm going to use my white Posca pen to do this, and I'm going to start by doing a little bit at the bottom here. Because this is really dark, it should show up quite well. Now a key to this is to make it parallel with the thing you're drawing it on against. Here I'm going to do one up there. Now the reason for that is because it's darker there, so this will show up. If I did one here, you would hardly see it. And I'm going to do one here. Like that. And hopefully do a little dot there like that. Hopefully that will give the illusion that we've got some glass and it's further forward than the plant. I think it works, but I think it's all a trick of the eye, and it depends on quite how you're seeing it. But there's our finished. I should zoom out just a tad. We can't quite see all of it, can we? There we go. There's our, straighten it up so you can, there. So there's our finished plant in the terrarium. It took quite a lot longer than I thought, but actually it was a lot of fun. Now the white is faded back a little bit. You can add extra layers of Posca to brighten it. Sometimes that doesn't always work. It can make it look, if you don't follow your line exactly, it can spoil it. But also if you do it too quickly, like if I did it now, this is still wet, and all I would do was rub it off rather than put another layer on top. So you can wait a bit, put a few more layers on. It's up to you, but I'm going to finish there. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was something really different. I had great fun actually, and I may come back and do a few other bits and pieces from this page. Probably not everything. There's quite a complex selection of things. This looks quite fun, but we'll see. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and happy colouring.